Hi guys, welcome back. So it's report card time for the Lions tourists. They lost the tour. It was close, but they lost it in the end. Let's go through who I think boosted their reputation, whose reputation may be reduced, and who stayed the same. Now, obviously, this is one of my subjective games, so I'd love to know your opinions. And of course, it depends where you think their reputation was before the tour. But anyway, let's get into those that have boosted their reputation, in my opinion. First up, Wyn Jones. I think he was the best scrummaging loosehead on tour. The problem was he was going to start in the first test. He got an injury and we only got to see him in that first half really of the third test. But still, I think his reputation has increased because of that. Luke Cowan-Dickie, it was a good fight for hooker. It was really even, but he clearly came out on top as the best all-round hooker, the most dynamic, the most exciting. Not perfect, but certainly he was Gatland's number one and he looked it. So I'm pretty sure he's going to become England's number one, hopefully straight away as well. So I think he's boosted his reputation there. Next up, Adam Beard. A late call-up to replace Alan Wyn Jones, who actually didn't need replacing in the end, which is, kind of scuppered his dreams a little bit because he may well have started that first test or certainly been involved more if Alan Wyn Jones hadn't come back. But certainly his performances in the tour games were impressive. I think he's going to be a rock of the Welsh scrum, their forward pack, in the years to come. So I think he's boosted his reputation there. Courtney Lawes could well have been the 37th man that Gatland was trying to get on tour, even though it was kind of meant to be 36. He was injured before the tour, so, there wasn't really much evidence to pick him on apart from what Gatland thought he could bring. In the first test, he was outstanding, pretty solid in the other two as well. Brings that line-out presence, that physicality into the blind side that he thinks was needed playing South Africa. So I think, even though he's getting a bit older, he just pushed his reputation up a little bit there. Next, Sam Simmonds. Okay, he didn't play a lot in the test matches, but, he's pretty much come from obscurity internationally wise. We all knew how good he was, but Eddie Jones refused to pick him. Gatland picked him straight up for the Lions, and I think we've seen in those non-test games that he can mix it with the best. Talking of number 8s, we've got Jack Conan, first choice number 8 for the Lions. Very, very impressive. He's thrown that gauntlet down for his Ireland number 8 shirt as well. It's going to be a really interesting mix in the back row, a battle in the back row between himself, Coombs, Doris, Van der Fleer. Which three maybe of those go into the first choice Irish back row. So I think he's definitely boosted his reputation. And the guy who had a high reputation to start with was Maro Itoje, but he was one of those few players that, he stood out, he actually made things happen. Not perfect, but certainly very few players, maybe Russell, Henshaw as well, really forced the issue and make things happen, and Itoje was one of those guys. On to the backs that I think boosted their reputation now. Scrum half was a bit of a weak, relatively weak area for the Lions, but I think Price came out as the number one on tour. Maybe he didn't have a massive reputation going in, certainly in the videos going in. A lot of comments saying he probably shouldn't be on tour or he shouldn't be starting, but he was definitely the best scrum half on tour. His mate, Finn Russell, definitely boosted his reputation. So nearly the saviour of the series. Got the Lions into those scoring positions in the third test, which they couldn't take. And his goal kicking was excellent. So definitely push him even higher in the reputation stakes, although Scottish fans would say they already had him in high regard as well. Robbie Henshaw, I think the best centre on tour, certainly. Most threatening, all energy. Is he best at 12 or 13? I'd probably say 13 for Ireland, but it depends, what mix they want to go with, maybe Aki or Ringrose. Either way, he impressed. As did Chris Harris, did get a little bit of a shot in those test matches. Very solid, very physical, good defender. Didn't get a lot of attacking chance, but, certainly maybe a little underrated going into the series, not so coming out. A player I think boosted his reputation by not playing in the test matches is Lewis Rees-Zammit. So young in those warm-up matches, looked really, really good, so dangerous. Definitely at home at this level. What would he have done in those test matches? We don't know, but certainly because he's so young, just by being there and playing well in the matches he did play in, boosts his reputation, especially considering a lot of other back three struggled. Then we've got Marcus Smith, a very late call-up cover for Russell, but he did get to play in a non-test game and look really good. We know how exciting he is, so certainly another boost to his young career. And lastly, Duan van der Merwe, the best of the test match back three that were used. Again, not perfect, but always a threat, always dangerous, willing to look for work. Certainly his rise from club rugby to international to Lions has been rapid, and he's taken it in his stride. Now on to the section where players, I think, maintain their reputation. I've called it roost here just because I've tried to make it rhyme. Boost, roost and reduce. Doesn't really work, but hey, let's just go with it. First up, Mako Vunipola. His inclusion on tour was definitely questioned. His reputation was on the line. He took a bit of a hit in the World Cup, but he showed up. He showed he can still mix it with the best. Maybe not stellar performances, but certainly pretty decent stuff. So I think he kept hold of his reputation, as did Ken Owens. Did well to keep out Jamie George in any of the test matches. Came on in the third test there. Looked good. But certainly not as dynamic as Cowan-Dickie, but certainly kept his reputation intact. Now this one, nearly I put him in the boost his reputation, but I've put him in the kind of roost, the maintain his reputation, because Tadhg Furlong had such a huge reputation going in. I mean, he was by far the best tight head, very consistent, very strong and solid. Probably would have wanted a bit more influence on those test matches, which is why I've got him in this section, but let me know if you think he boosted his reputation. Sinclair was okay, plenty of involvement, maybe not amazing either, maintained his reputation, but certainly no improvement, I would say. Backs-wise, Dan Biggar, first choice fly half, never had the spark really to really ignite the backline like Russell did. But he's a real warrior, hangs in there, super tough, looked like he was held together by sticky tape by the end of it. Certainly maintains his rep. Bundyaki brought the power, he was very good at that, running his hard lines, good in defence. Did he dominate his opposition in the test matches? Probably not, but certainly a very good tourist. His teammates loved him, certainly maintains a rep. Elliot Daly's a funny one. Hard to know what category to put him in. I've put him in the middle one because it was a very mixed bag. Certainly when he got to attack with time and space, especially in the non-test games, he looked $1 million. Then when the going got tough physically, didn't look so good at all, but still featured or certainly was in the 23 for all the test matches. So he at least maintains a reputation, I would say. But, of course, certain areas of his game maybe decreased, other areas increased. Now, a strange one here. Josh Adams was on fire in the pre-test matches, simply on fire. Then the birth of his child, understandable problems there. Did get back in for the third test, but really featured very little. So, no boost, no reduce, just maintained for him, I believe. Now, a bit out of order, but going back to a few forwards who I think probably maintain their reputation. Johnny Hill selected, a bit of a wild card, did okay in some games, not so good in others, didn't feature in the test, so I don't really think you can raise or lower him, but hopefully he'll use this experience to improve with England in the future. Then we've got Josh Navidi, again, didn't feature in the test, looked decent when he played in some games, not in others, in those warm-up games, so probably just maintaining for him. Hamish Watson, the one we never really got to see a lot of, apart from coming on, doing that tip tackle, but didn't get a chance to redeem himself, so not really sure if we can say he goes up or down. And then another player that we didn't really get to see what he could really do was Tadhg Beirne. Did well in those warm-up games. He had a big reputation in my books going into this series, certainly, because he's a high-quality player, but we just didn't get to see what he could do in those test matches, so I think he stays. On to the last category, players whose reputations, I believe, reduced a bit, or a lot maybe. Let me know. Certainly first up, Rory Sutherland got his big chance in the first test because of the Wyn Jones injury, but struggled, to be honest. So certainly a lot was hope for him going into the tour, didn't quite live up to it, so a slight reduce in reputation, I'd say. Jamie George, just by the fact he didn't get into any of the Test match 23s, has a slight dip in reputation, especially because it was quite high going in. Plus, he was a good tourist in New Zealand. Then we've got Xander Fagerson. Not a great tour, to be honest. Warm-up games didn't go his way. Didn't get the Test minutes, of course, so probably just dips a bit. Then we've got Tom Curry. Went in with, a bit of a wonder kid reputation. Gatland certainly fancied him, started in all 3 tests, but certainly a lot of costly errors. Just, reminding him he's very young, he's got a lot to learn. Probably didn't play as well as he'd have hoped or others would have expected. So from quite a high reputation going in, certainly drops a bit. Then to Lupe Faletau, it's a bit tough to put him in this category because he's been such a great player for so long. Still got plenty to offer, but by his very high standards, certainly didn't hit them at all. Conan locked him out of the starting Test number 8 shirt, so certainly a little dip in rep for him. Again, an ageing warrior, Conor Murray. He was there or thereabouts, but just a little slow in what he does. A bit of a shadow of his former self. Certainly good leadership, knows what he wants to do, but doesn't quite have the pace or that explosive running game that he used to. Talking of explosive running game, Gareth Davis just didn't really feature. It was a what if for him. Gatland, wanted a kicking 9. Davis wasn't really that, so didn't get a look in. So because he didn't get a look in, his reputation probably just dips a bit. Owen Farrell was taken on his reputation, but really, he's a top goal kicker, but he's showing very little else at the moment. Big question marks really about him, especially with England. Where does he feature? Maybe it will be 12 alongside Smith at 10. Then Anthony Watson, pretty poor under the high ball, to be honest, in those Test matches. Didn't get a chance to show his running game, so a bit disappointing showings for him. Stuart Hogg, those first 2 Test matches, got his start, but it was not the type of game for him. He couldn't show off his running prowess, which is what he's good at. So, no real impact. So, from a high reputation, took a little dent there. As did Liam Williams. Doesn't look quite the player he used to be. Replaced Hogg in the 3rd Test, but no real improvement. And certainly he'll be remembered for missing that vital 2-on-1 to potentially get the Lions into the game with a try there. So that's where I see the players ranking. Let me know what you think. Who boosted their reputation? Who reduced in your opinion? Pop those comments below, and I will catch you next time.